Hello and welcome back to the You're Your Biggest Critic podcast. I'm so excited to be back this week and I hope everyone had a great new year and y'all are happy and healthy and got to spend lots of time with your family. I know I did and it was much needed. This week we have my cousin Melanie on. She lives in Colorado and I was actually out visiting her and I brought up the idea of us doing this podcast together and she loved it. And so here we are a couple months later. I'm so excited for this podcast because we're really going to be emphasizing on the stigmas around alcoholism and the solutions to alcoholism. And Melanie is a recovering alcoholic, and so she's the perfect person to talk to this topic about. But I just also wanted to give some resources as we are during the podcast episode, if anybody needs them. And if you feel like you're in a crisis or you need help, please reach out to 1-800-237-TALK, or for any other resources that you may need about alcoholism or resources towards alcohol. For this, I cannot speak today, y'all. I don't know what's happening. For alcoholism or any other resources, please reach out to 888-454-0424, and we will be giving more emails and more numbers throughout the episode. So if you feel like you need to talk to somebody after this episode, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much, Melanie, for coming on. And now I'm going to let Melanie intro herself like we do every week, you guys. So give a warm welcome, the biggest hug and applause to my bestie, my cousin, a great family member, Melanie Stritch, who is getting a call right now.
I'm so sorry, Maddie. I don't know how to, anyway, thank you for having me on with this, especially with this topic. I know that your podcast is around a lot of mental health issues, and with alcoholism and substance use disorder, there are co-occurring disorders that go along. So this topic is super important and amazing for you to have on your show. Like Madeline said, I am Melanie and I am an alcoholic in recovery, recovering from alcohol and substance use disorder. So, and a person that has suffered from depression, anxiety, and several different mental health issues, but have found solution in recovery. So that's the biggest part. I got sober about 6 years ago in the rooms of 12-step meetings. So I'm sure people have heard of different paths to recovery, and that was the one that I chose that fit me best at this time in my life to help me find solution and begin my journey. And then in more recent years, I started working in behavioral health at Foundry Treatment Center, a men's residential treatment facility in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, focusing on trauma integrated care and substance use disorder. And then with that, also, I've gotten into doing some facilitated family conversation intervention work with families, where I go in with a really dear coworker, mentor, and friend now, Marlis Bowdish, and we help families have really hard conversations with their loved ones to help them get on the path of recovery, because sometimes when we're in the thick of those things, we can't see the light for ourselves. So yeah.
Yay, that was such a good intro. Thank you. I'm so excited. And that's Biggie, her dog, Biggie Smalls. Welcome, Biggie, to the podcast.
I know, sorry about that.
No, don't worry about it. So Mel is a family member and we're so excited for her and so excited to be on this journey with her. And so Melanie, do you want to give any more details about your story, or do you want to get right into the stigmas?
No, yeah, I can, because the story around it and the path that I chose to take when I got on recovery is so important, because it has a lot to do with our family and genetics, right?
Yeah.
So as all families have different genes, parts of ours had alcoholism, and it's going back, I think, as far as great grandparents to myself, trickling down from them to my dad's dad, to my dad, and then to myself. And so, those are, worse signs that I should have maybe kept a closer eye on in my drinking and drugging, but I chose to turn a blind eye because I was able to function in my alcoholism, whereas the examples I had seen from alcoholism were knock down, drag out, lose everything. And that's what you have to do to get sober, or that's what it takes to hit rock bottom. And that's absolutely not true. So actually my dad plays a huge role, as you know, Maddie, and our family knows, in my recovery, and helped hold my hand and walk me into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, where where I was able to find recovery in a way that it honestly doesn't work for a lot of people. I don't ever want to say that that's the only solution for people, because it's not. I believe about 7% of humans that walk into those rooms stay sober. So I'm happy to be part of that 7%, as well as my dad. I had a moment of clarity in a cab once. I know that's a really weird, in an Uber. And I decided that day that I was done, that I had hit rock bottom. I had gone several days on a bender, and that it was that I could not suffer the way I was anymore. And that I didn't want to live that life anymore. And it just so happened that my dad was visiting from Florida to Colorado, and it just all fell into place. And I haven't looked back. It's hard and it's a roller coaster ride, but it's so incredibly worth it. And what I just want to most importantly say is that when and if people are, questioning if they have the same disease of alcoholism and or drug addiction that I did, that it comes in many different shapes and forms. It doesn't all look the same. You don't have to lose it all to get sober. You don't have to lose your job, end your marriage, different things like that in order to get on this path of recovery. In fact, I was deep in a career when I did, and was able to maintain job, parenting, and recovery at the beginning. But I also wanted to let any of our listeners know today, Maddie, before we do get into the stigma and how myself and a bunch of other amazing people that I work with are out here fighting it, I just want to let you know that Maddie does have my email address. It's melstritch, melstritch @gmail.com. If any of our listeners have any questions around this topic, how to find resources and get help for yourself, there's so many different pathways. I'm well-versed nationwide. And if I don't have resources, a lot of my personal and professional community of addiction warriors will.
She's a good resource. And I like how you said earlier that there's just not one path. Like, I feel like in society today, and we'll go into this more when we go with into the stigmas, but I feel like society today likes to do a one-way kind of thinking, or one way will work for everybody. So like, let's just keep funding this or doing this. But with mental health and with diseases like alcoholism, there isn't just one path. We're all so different. We're all made up so differently. And so this will be a really good episode. And I hope to give a lot of insight to people that just because we have this disease doesn't make us what the disease is. Melanie isn't known for her alcoholism. She's known as Mel Stritch, the warrior, the kind person who works with families and helps people. I'm known as Maddie, the podcast creator, college student. We aren't known as our diseases. And so I just want to make that clear throughout this episode, that we are giving resources and trying to destigmatize mental health and alcoholism throughout this episode. Because I feel like sometimes we can get lost and just pile ourselves up and make ourselves feel bad when, yes, we have this disease, but it's really not us. It's not our heart.
No, and I like that you brought it up like that, because one really important thing to say to anyone that is questioning any part of this, the co-occurring mental health issues, the underlying anxiety, I only drink when this. But one thing my dad said to me once is it's not about how much you drink, it's about what happens when you drink.
Mhm.
um and then another thing I wanted to add, it I wasn't able even to pinpoint a lot of my anxiety until I got sober, because we can't, right? Like, I was literally living in a chemical roller coaster, where I was up, down, and all around in my addiction, and I wasn't able to be my authentic, clean version of myself and be able to figure out that anxiety does exist, that depression does exist. But
Mhm.
I haven't, since getting sober, I have had very small, tiny bouts of depression. And then about a year in, I was able to pinpoint that maybe I do have anxiety, that it's not just from the drinking, and that there's there's stuff to help me. And ever since then, it's like very minimal, under controlled, and I can live with it. I can self-soothe through anything, pretty much.
So would you say alcoholism goes hand in hand with mental health? Would you say people cope with mental health by drinking?
Yes. More often than not, the alcoholism is more or less a symptom of the mental health issues, a lot of trauma, different things like that, PTSD, different situations that people have been in throughout their journeys. And trauma and PTSD aren't always going to be, like I said, they're not going to always be these, they're different for everyone. PTSD and trauma are they don't, it doesn't always have to be this horrific story. Different things that comes, different chapters in our life can create um really hard places for us to cope with, and or then get triggered later down the road, right?
Mhm.
So something that maybe happened to me years ago that might not even be anything to you, Maddie, you'd be like, what, you got upset about that? But
Mhm.
it hit me different, and then later on down the road I get triggered and I'm reminded about it,
Yeah.
and the only thing I know how to do is drink and drug over it, because that's how I soothe,
Mhm.
until I got help.
Yeah. So there's genetics of it and there's the mental health and soothing part of it. So there really are so many avenues to this that we aren't even going to probably touch the base of tonight.
So,
But I'm just glad we're having this conversation and having to talk about this, and really just making a platform for others to feel comfortable to come forward, because that's what really this podcast is about. Is I'm making a platform for everybody to feel comfortable, and if they're willing to come talk and come just learn about mental health. So, because as soon as we all feel comfortable about talking it to each other, we'll be able to make real change and destigmatize all of these things. And it really just starts with us. And I'm so glad we're having this conversation today.
yeah, me too, Maddie. And around the stigma part, the stigma behind getting help and receiving help was the hardest thing for me. I thought, oh my God, my life is going to be over. I'm not going to have any friends. There was pretty much every job I've ever had were just like lots of drinking involved, whether it was happy hour after work, or um anything I've ever it's so culturally like embedded into yoga and drink, and book club and drink and
Oh, I
come.
know. I was going to sign up for a cycling class the other day, and it said wine next to it. And I said, I cannot cycle and drink. I would puke. Like literally everything is embedded in it. It's so weird now. I was like, I'll do the easy class with no wine.
I know, and that's the thing. It's like you see all that, and then you're like, oh my God, where am I actually going to go? Who am I going to be friends with? what is it going to look like when I get off of work? I'm not going to lie. Like when I went to get my first haircut, I was like, oh my God. After I got into recovery, I was like, I drink at my haircut. I used to have a mimosa or some champagne with my girl. No regrets. We had a blast, you know. However, I had made this huge lifestyle change and I'm like, wait, can I go get my hair cut? Um, but you know what? Now it's even better. Everything is so much better. There are a lot of people out here, and we're trying to normalize getting help, asking for help, recovery communities. There's so many different ways. And fellowships out there, Dharma recovery, which is around the more mindfulness and meditation, Celebrate Recovery, which is a Christian based 12-step recovery path for people, AA, NA, CA, Codependence Anonymous. There's so many different groups out there now, and within a lot of the groups are fellowship. Now I probably, when I am doing anything, going to dinner, going for a weekend in the mountains, going for a bike ride, going for a hike, or skiing, or anything here in Colorado, pretty much my fellowship and the people that I'm hanging out with are also in recovery. Now, I do have my OG friends who have been so supportive and amazing to me through this journey, that have we just change what we've done. Instead of going out at night to get a drink, we'll go to dinner or go to breakfast.
Yeah,
or
tell
go
us about how you introduced your new lifestyle to your friends, because maybe we have some viewers who are like, I don't know how my friends are going to handle this, because we used to go party and that's all we did. So I don't want them to judge me if they still go do that. I go with them, but I maybe just don't drink, or when we go out to dinner, I don't get a glass of wine or a little vodka cran. So tell us how you told your friends, and then how your friends maybe reacted, and then how y'all all made the lifestyle change.
So at first it was kind of more private. I just was on a cleanse, for ever. I just said that, I'm on a cleanse. And then
as I got
New Year now in June. New summer, new Mel. I had to full on immerse myself. I had to change the people, places, and my playground. Okay. Because that's the only way I can 100% dive in for someone like me. I still have a lot of friends that I told about, hey, I'm trying to make this lifestyle change. I hit a bottom. Some of them were like, you're not that bad. It's not bad. What do you mean? No, why don't you just take some time off, or just chill? Are you sure? And I'm like, no, I'm pretty dang sure that was a wrap. Okay. And
we're wrapping this train up.
Yeah, train
is leaving the system.
Sure enough was. But most of my friends were very supportive, all of them. There were some that fizzled away, maybe because when you get sober, change your life, people can't help but reflect from the choices that you make, and then and look at themselves, oh shoot, I hung out with Mel, am I that? And that's a decision I can't identify and say anyone else is an alcoholic or anyone else is anything. All I can do is share my experience, strength, and hope. So to answer your question, I decided to change a lot of friendships on my own. But it was really amazing and is beautiful all the time. People come to me and say, hey, Mel, I need help. And tell me how you did it. I've gone over to friends for dinner and I'm like, you guys haven't seen me since I got sober, have a beer, and they're like, no, we actually had you over because I'm sober now too. And
you're an ally for so many people.
Well, yeah, because I choose to do it out loud. Now, I didn't go to my job. I didn't go to people. You have to think strategically about your heart and your head when you're going through a big change like this. Who are the people that will support you?
Mhm.
Is your Uncle Danny at Thanksgiving who chugs Bud Light the whole time going to be a great person or a good ally for you? Probably not during
Yeah.
that. That doesn't mean that these people are completely cut out of our lives at all. It
Mhm.
means right now you need to go in and find and trust your own instinct and heart to the people that you know that will support you.
Yeah.
And the people that don't support you maybe weren't supporting you in the first place. I know a lot of people
Mic
go
drop.
right. A lot of people actually that go into treatment really find community in the treatment facility that they go to. And then there's alumni, and then there's sober livings to go live in after for accountability and to be around community. So there's so many, like, I
Mhm.
didn't even know about any of this stuff when I got sober. I
Mhm.
just I mean, I knew about treatment because my mom has worked in treatment and helped found a treatment facility in Winston-Salem. Um, but I didn't take that path.
So how would you say your workforce and the work that you do with Marlo, how would
Well,
you Marlis? I always say Marlo.
it's okay.
Literally, I'm so embarrassed. Sorry, Mel. Sorry, Marlis. It's
No, don't be embarrassed.
I always
Oh,
get her name wrong. Even in Colorado, she was like, "Oh, Marlis." I'm like, "Oh, Marlo," and she's like, "Yeah, no."
we have
So
a
what
family
would
that just calls us Marlene because they combined Marlis and Mel.
Oh
So
my
we
gosh,
just
I'm gonna start doing that so I don't get them wrong. Marlene. So how would you say your Marlene group and then your Foundry group, how would you guys say you are destigmatizing the alcoholism kind of force that's out there? Because I feel like I knew about our family and I knew like different things, but I feel like there's also so many stigmas around it. Like you can't drink in front of an alcoholic, you can't really bring up um drinking or what else, like I know some people feel like they have to tiptoe around their family members who are alcoholics because they're afraid of what will happen. um like how would you guys say you guys are destigmatizing that?
Okay, so I love this because the family model, the family piece around this is huge. So at the Foundry, my job is strategic outreach manager. So what I do for the Foundry Treatment Center is I go and create relationship in the Front Range of Colorado, Boulder, Denver, Fort Collins down to Colorado Springs, and bring awareness of the work that we are doing,
Mhm.
that we are here, that it's accessible. Um, we are network with three insurances, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Rocky Mountain Health Plan. And then the rest is out of network insurance. So the fact that it's accessible via insurance,
Yeah, that's awesome because some mental health facilities don't take insurance. They'll just bill you right out of pocket.
most of them do. So, but what we have that's so special to me at Foundry is the family program, is a family program that a man named Dr. Michael Barnes has dedicated his entire life to help educating the family around the stigma. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, like if your cousin's like 3 months sober, she's probably struggling, but she probably also has tools and a phone number list in her pocket. Maybe support her and not get smashed at the next
Family gathering.
family gathering. um Also, we understand like people have to live and keep moving on and with their life. I've never asked anyone, please don't have any alcohol
Yeah.
um around me. I don't care. It became neutral. It took me some time, but one amazing thing is that we can all, I always say, drive yourself. No matter where you go, drive your own self so you can leave immediately when you need to. But with Foundry, I pretty much spend most of my time creating awareness around the services that we have, And right now talking about the family program, because the family program we're launching is a full-on care for any family member affected by the alcoholic or addict, whether that be mom, dad, brother, sister, husband, wife, cousin, whoever. While their loved one is in treatment, they are getting treatment. It's almost parallel to their loved one, and getting educated around boundaries, around the disease.
Yeah, boundaries are a big one.
Boundaries are huge. And so with Foundry, and then what I do is create and find partnership for when our clients leave Foundry, we want them to have a tight plan in place, and we don't let them go, or we don't want them to go anywhere where we haven't vetted or met the provider. Because just because someone does treatment does not mean that that's over. That means that the journey has just begun. They've planted the seed, they've built their foundation, all these cliche things that people say that are so true and that literally happen while someone's in treatment. And then they have forever alumni support through our services. But what we get to do is create a safe space for people to come and take the first step. And the first step is, is asking for help. And right when they walk in that door, they get an authentic, individualized plan for themselves. And if their family chooses to do so, the same happens with them in the family program, because we believe in whole family healing. So that's our best way.
And I feel like if the whole family is on board and knows like what to do, then like it will be more structured for when that individual does go home. Because I feel like sometimes with like programs and stuff, you like send your kid or send your daughter, wife, whatever, husband to a facility, but like you don't really know what's going on inside the facility. So they get home and, because it's not being fulfilled at home, they could fall back in through the cracks. So I feel like if everybody knows what's going on and uses the same boundaries and structure and the same verbiage, then I feel like it's really going to be fulfilled in all environments, because a person is going to be in environments their whole lives, and they're going to be in so many different. So I feel like the more people that know all of the techniques and the language and the verbiage and the this and the that, then like we all can be helping hands to everybody.
We can. And I'm so grateful for you for having a podcast that's dedicated to these hard topics that people don't want to talk about anymore. I feel like we're loosening up though as a society.
I do too.
And it's okay for us to talk about these things. It's okay, during the, we're in the middle of the not in the middle, we're not at the end, we're just in a pandemic.
We're floating with bobbleheads. That's what we're doing. No one knows.
And that's okay, right?
Yeah.
Or it's not, but we have to figure out a way for it to be okay, because it's not changing tomorrow. But that has caused the isolation in the beginning, the loss of job, sickness, all kinds of different things have skyrocketed. The opioid epidemic happening in the world. We're in a pandemic, and an epidemic is happening around us where people are overdosing and dying. And it's just a really hard time, right? So every day I'm going out there, both personally and professionally, and trying to let people know that there's resources, letting people know that my door is open. I can listen. I'm here to help. Marlis and I, the work that we do is, God bless her for letting me mentor with her for a long time, and then finally deciding that we were in partnership together to help guide families on how to have conversation to get someone into treatment. It's difficult, and it's rewarding at the same time. And if it doesn't work, and the person of concern does not choose to take the path of recovery, eventually they turn around and do and in time help make the decision to get some help. So that's the great thing about that. Marlis and I are both active in our personal recoveries. We have to be anyone, just because we work in this field of work, that does not mean that we get what we need to fill our cups as far as our own recoveries. And when I say that, I mean, I just am in the middle of doing EMDR therapy around my personal trauma and different things in life. And I've been doing that work for about 2 years now with an amazing woman and therapist here who's just literally one of my heroes in Colorado. And I love her so much. And I do that. And then I do 12-step groups. You went to yoga with me. That is so really new, but I can't believe I'm doing it. I mean,
I know, good for you.
2 months and 3 days a week.
Yoga is hard. I was dying and Mel's over here like downward dog, spider kick up. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to lay here in downward dog and then go to sleep, because I was like I was like, this is a lot. I have not done yoga in months, y'all, because of the pandemic, and it was hard, but Mel was rocking it. It was awesome.
But things like that, we have to keep our cups filled. Self-care. The other amazing thing is, like, at both of my jobs, and I'm so blessed because family is first at both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like, they're so family driven. It's then my recovery is second, right? I work with people and for people who literally genuinely care about how my personal well-being is. And it's very little in this life when you get to go to work and people's like, how you doing? And they don't mean, how are you doing on the surface, Melanie? How are you doing on the inside, right? And where you don't bust.
They're meeting you where you're at. And I think a lot more people in this generation need to do that. We need to actually like raw and authentically say like, no, like really, like, how are you doing? Because like, I could get on Zoom every week and we could do a podcast and I could be like, how are you? Like, I hope you're good. Kind of like the church, like on your pat on your back. Hey, sweetie, how are you? How's your mom? Or like when you see someone at the grocery store, but like, that's just like a quick, like, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm great. How are you? But like, I could have had a really bad day and, and no one would have ever known because I put a smile on my face. So I love how your work is intertwined with your family. And it really also helps because you're such a family woman. Like, you raised Ben so well. You help your dad in so many ways. And it's just, I got to see that when I got to Colorado, and I love it because your work kind of just brings it all together.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You're doing amazing work.
And one other thing real quick is that I have included Ben in my recovery, and y'all, Ben is my 13-year-old son who did see me in active alcoholism. Thank God he went to his dad's every other weekend, and I did a lot of my damage when he was with his spending time with his co-parent. But Ben and I have even received recovery together through the Betty Ford Children's Program. Right now they are doing their program online. This program, it changed our life. It helped create safe ways for my son to talk about the disease that I have, for him to understand, and they educated him around things. And this was years ago that we did it, but it's still very special to us. So if any parents are out there, and I don't know what popular or like who's listening to us today, that's the thing, Maddie, is that if any of these folks come back and they have questions, you have to let them.
Mel will send me all of the resources, like the Betty Forge, maybe like number and email, and I will put it in the description, and I will put it in also the posts. And I'll link everything on my story. So everything will be accessible to you guys. And I'm just thankful for anybody who's listening and willing to receive help, or maybe somebody, or maybe you're just glancing over and you're just like, oh, listening. You never know who you're going to encounter years later. So I hope this podcast helps people in a lot of different ways and meets you where you're at. Because I know the pandemic has not made it easy for any of us. I mean, I would love to be doing this in person, but one, Mel lives way too far away, and two, the pandemic, it's hard to have people over. So I totally get, and I hope this podcast meets everyone where they're at. But before we end today, I want to end on the solutions. what are some solutions, Mel, you would say that you have maybe in your pocket or you've learned through your own experience and journey or through work?
Okay, so there's so many. So my first solution is go when I say to go to 12-step meetings, everything that they recommended, I did it. When they said jump, I said how high. Um even when I had regards, it's been, people say, oh, it's a cult, it's this, it's that. It's nothing. It's what you make of it, and it's been proven to help people. So that has been I owe everything I have to the 12-step, because that is why I am sitting here today and how I got sober. So that's my biggest solution. And then I put my ego aside, and I can ask for help now. My ego is not my amigo. And so that is something that when I get stuck in ego, I'm able to pause and pray. I love that one. And really, really take a step back and just chill for a minute. Exercise is huge. I can tell when I'm not. Sleep is huge. Diet is huge. All of these things go hand in hand to whole body healing and whole body care. Don't get me wrong, there are days when I'm just like, I'm eating queso and chips for dinner. Ben's at his dad's, and I'm just
literally eating cheesecake for dinner because that is the kind of day I have, y'all. Like,
right? It's
literally some days you have to.
Yeah. And then, seeking professional help when you need to. If anyone is ever struggling with different things, because there's so much, it's so heavy. There is help. There are people. There is help for every single person that's out here. You have to advocate for yourself. I know that's hard to do in certain situations, but once you start and make that little chirp chirp and advocate for yourself, it's only uphill from there.
Yeah. Well, Mel, I hope everyone has learned so much, because I know I have, and I know we're just scratching the surface, y'all. There's so much more. So I hope, Mel, you'll come back on later in the season and talk more with us. And I'm just so thankful for your raw and authenticity, and you just willing to come on and tell your story, because that's really how we're going to see and make change. Because so many people think they're alone. And let me tell you guys, you're not. More people struggle with mental health now than ever before. So know that you're not alone. Know that you can be the change. One conversation, one post, anything can be the change in everything. So thank you guys so much for listening. And remember to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications on YouTube at You're Your Biggest Critic Podcast, and on Instagram at Your Biggest Critic, and Twitter, RRE_biggest. Thank you guys so much, and stay tuned for more content coming your way next week. Thank you, Mel. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.